What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and this time I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple more tickers. I'm going to break down what the news is saying about Tesla, what's happening during the pre-markets thus far, and some very, very important levels to be watching for as time goes on. But before I break down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. So anyways, let's talk about what's going on with Tesla. Tesla's on a strong uptrend right now as we have smashed through the yellow trend line of resistance. Don't forget, guys, we had this yellow trend line that was very key for Tesla. Tesla hit this and bounced off of this many times before we broke below it. Treated this as resistance. We came back down before we broke past it, and now Tesla's we got a back test yesterday before we bounced again, and now Tesla's actually trying to come back up. So if anything, it's holding up very nicely, got a very, very nice push, and we're favoring the bulls even more. So with Tesla pushing up, now what I'm going to be focusing on would be our levels of resistance. I'm going to focus more on those instead, and we're going to be watching to see how Tesla does, at least looking at the current levels and the current trend on it. But let's first talk about the market. How are things looking? So we have some good news and some not so good news. For the most part, the news is good, at least for the bulls, because continuing jobless claims was as expected. And then we also saw jobless claims at the 4-week average close to expectations as well. Wholesale inventories was close to expectations. Everything else was quite fine, except for initial jobless claims. This was a little bit hotter than expected, and this played a role in why the market's actually kind of cooling off just a little bit. The market gapped up hard, pushed during the pre-market. When this data came out, we actually saw it drop just a little bit, but it's still holding up. It's still quite green and still looking decent anyways. So still holding up decently. The question is what's going to happen as time goes on. At 10 o'clock a.m., we have pending home sales coming out. And then don't forget that at 11:30 a.m., we have the 4-week and the 8-week bill auctions coming out. Those are going to be very important when it comes to inducing volatility within the markets. We're going to be watching to see how things go from there. But just watch for some volatility now at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's just a couple of hours after market open. And besides that, all the data is going to be very minor for the rest of the day. Now, with that being said, there's some things we should know about the markets. The S&P 500 is still chasing all-time highs. It's only 0.5% away from that, trying to get closer to it. The New York Times is also suing Microsoft and ChatGPT creator OpenAI, claiming that we saw its intellectual property being improperly used to train large language models. That's actually some very, very big stuff right now. This is going to be a massive, massive lawsuit. So we'll see how this goes. Apple got a big win, which is part of why Apple's pushing. The U.S. appeals court dealt Apple a win, temporarily halting an import ban, which allows them now to be able to sell their devices despite a patent issue. So this is bullish news for Apple. It's part of why Apple's trying to push up. And finally, millions of student borrowers aren't making their monthly loan payments according to reports, and according to the Department of Education, that's about 40% of people missing their first payment. That is big news, and we'll have to see what happens as time goes on. Anyways, guys, just for a couple of news about Tesla, I'm not really seeing anything too big. I've basically seen some news about how China is unveiling its first EV as it looks to compete with Porsche and Tesla. This is not China, but like this company in particular. This is very, very important because with the competition looming in China being a big market, this is going to just lead to more and more competition, and it could lead to different shifts in the Chinese markets. But in my opinion, it doesn't really change much for Tesla in particular. I think Tesla is still very big in China, and these news articles love to just compare Tesla with other brands. I think Tesla is going to be fine nonetheless, guys. I'm very confident about that, so I'm not really too worried about that. On top of this, there's the news coming out about how there are all these recalls, but I do see a big issue right over here. It's because they're kind of generalizing all of these different companies, saying this one had a recall, this one had a recall. But the thing is, was Tesla really, once again, in these massive recalls like the other companies? There was some news that came out that it was recalling 120,000 of its 2021 to 2023 Model S and X's, but to fix it, they released an over-the-air software update that was free of charge. So the point I'm trying to make is that you can't clump all these companies together like Honda and Tesla and say that, oh, they're all having recalls, when Tesla's recall, quote unquote recall, is in completely different context because they just fix it with an over-the-air software update. So it just shows the bias and the way in which people could be misinformed about Tesla, as it tends to look bad from the media. So just be very careful in looking at headlines like that. I just want to clarify that. And then finally, the Tesla Cybertruck competitor supplier is competing for the company's Berlin project. So that's interesting news so far. Nothing too crazy thus far, but we're starting to see some competition when it comes to the supply chains, and also them trying to determine whether or not they're going to be using different background parts and things like that. But for now, nothing too crazy has been going on. I would say that this is just expected, and we're going to be watching to see if the Giga Mexico gets involved in this. So I'll be watching for that too. But that's pretty much it for the news, guys. And now let's just talk about the charts. I was trying to make that part kind of quick. So Tesla's in a very, very nice trend, uptrending very, very nicely. It's been pushing up, and if anything, it looks bullish. It's very simple, guys. Watch the yellow trend line as our support. So it's going to be around this 262 to 263 zone. 262 is where we have some nice support right now at the yellow trend line. If we lose that, we have 260. And if that fails us, then we have 258 as supports. Resistance, so if we do end up coming down just to like 262 and we start pushing, watch 265 if Tesla could break that. Our next target is going to be 266 and then 268. And we have 270 and 272 above that. In my opinion, the chart's looking bullish, made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. It is uptrending, and I think there's going to be another attempt for 265 plus. Could even break this and start pushing up even higher. Tesla loves to push during the first couple of hours of the trading day, so I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla attempts to go higher. We could even backtest this trend line later, so kind of like pump and then dump back down here, then just continue to push. But overall, the trend is favoring the bulls as Tesla's looking bullish. Tesla looks bullish on the 4-hour time frame right here as well. And we're up quite nicely in the pre-market. So I think there's definitely more potential as it looks very bullish. So once again, could it come down to backtest this? Yes, but I think it's going to hold up overall an uptrend and continue to try to break 265. We should be looking at these next levels of resistance as Tesla looks bullish overall. On SPY, I think that SPY is going to try to get to new all-time highs. Same thing with the QQQ. Before the year closes, but after that, things could shift as we have a rising wedge. Watch support at 476. If this fails us, there's 475.5, and then we have 475 below that. Watch the wedge support as well. If we bounce from here, watch resistance at 4. First off, we have resistance around 477. Then we have 478 above that, and then 480. In my opinion, with this uptrend going on, we're going to be looking for a nice push from right over here. We're going to continue to uptrend. I think that we're going to eventually reach 478. There's a very good chance of that potentially happening. But we might see this thing retrace just a bit first. But overall, I think that the trend is still bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows. This could retrace, get very close to the 476s as they grab liquidity, but I think eventually there's going to be a push up again. I think the market's going to hold up for the end of the year. Tomorrow is the last trading day of the year, so watch it carefully. I think that there's definitely upside potential. On the QQQ, watch resistance right over here around this 413 area, then 413.5 and 414. Watch support at 412. If that fails us, then we also have support around 411. In my opinion, watch 412. If we hold 412 around this range, should try to uptrend from here and continue to push up towards 414. I think overall we're on a nice uptrend. We're just continuing to make higher highs and higher lows. There's a good chance that the QQQ is going to just try to continue to push upwards. So could this thing retrace towards 412? I think it still could retrace just a little bit to fill this gap. I think it's going to ultimately bounce and try to hold up as it's in this rising wedge. The overall trend is still bullish, so it's looking quite good. For Nvda, we look bullish as well. Make sure you watch resistance very close to this 497 area. Then we have 498 and then 500. For support, make sure you watch 495. Then we also have support at 492, followed by 490. We're on a strong uptrend right now, uptrending slowly, and I think that Nvidia is going to slowly make its way up higher. Watch support at 495. As long as we hold this, we should uptrend and get very close to 500 over the next couple of days. The trend looks bullish. If we lose 495, then we could retrace to 492. That's like the more bearish case, but I don't see that playing out right now. I favor the upside. I think that we're going to get very close to 500 to fill some wicks. And finally, last but not least, for Apple stock, I would say that Apple looks bullish. A little bit more bullish for now as it's trying to break out, but we need confirmation to turn even more bullish. So we had this falling wedge. We've broken out of it. It's trying to uptrend, but we're just barely holding 193.5. We pushed up, rejected, and now we're trying to push up again. Need to see this thing hold 193.5. If we hold above it, there's potential for it to get up to 194, then 194.4. For support at 193.5, make sure you watch this support right here at 193. Then we have 192.5. Then we have 192. In my opinion, Apple is going to try to uptrend, but it could retrace a little bit more and try to fill this gap in the low 193s. But I think it's going to bounce and try to push a little higher thanks to the positive lawsuits and try to hold above this level. I'm not too concerned about it getting up to 194. I just want to see it hold and close above 193.5. And we're going to slowly be making progress, which could help the market go higher. So watch and see if it holds 193.5. It could bounce from here and start pushing up higher for 194. I'm thinking it might retrace a bit first and then try to bounce. And I think that ultimately there could be a change in the direction on Apple, which could favor the bulls a bit more. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Hopefully this video was insightful and helpful for people who are trying to trade during the pre-markets. Watch the levels very carefully and do what you have to do, guys. Tesla's also looking bullish, so thank you for listening. Get ready for the trading day. Tesla in the market to the moon as the long term is very bright, and peace out.